الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون
Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is GRTS News File at 2000 hours, and in our top stories this evening. OIC Information Ministers meeting.
The conference seeks to empower member states to tackle misinformation and Islamophobia that continues to cast negative aspersions on the image of Islam and Muslims the world over.
The successful completion of this road.
The injury outbreak linked to contaminated Indian-made syrups causing child mortalities in the Gambia. This is GRTS News File with me by Ibrahim Cham, and
I am Marianne Njai Ajayi. Now, in sports, Gambia's national handball teams prepares for the upcoming Zone 2 matches and Virginia.
The Gambia national handball men's, youth and junior are in high gear and all set for the
busy time at Good Grass, a large commercial farm east of Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Like many other farms across the country, wheat harvesting is in progress. Farmer Claudia Nyakonda is expecting.
The African Export-Import Bank has approved a $200 million loan for the construction of Uganda's crude oil export pipeline. Earlier,
That's the top of the news file and much more coming ahead. And thank you for joining us.
It's great to have you here. We begin this special bulletin with the Minister of Information, Lamin Queen Jame, who led a delegation of officials under his ministry, including the Permanent Secretary, Yankuba Saidi, and Director of Information, Aisha Davis, at the OIC Conference of Information Ministers underway in Istanbul. The meeting of information policymakers in OIC nations is themed on combating disinformation and Islamophobia in the post-truth era. Ramajalo has more.
The conference seeks to empower member states to tackle misinformation and Islamophobia that continues to cast negative aspersions on the image of Islam and Muslims the world over, by stereotyping and projecting Islam as the driver of hate, discontent, violence, terrorism, abuse of rights and freedoms, to name a few. On this basis, the conference resolved to reaffirm its positions to galvanize efforts to counter, contradict, and confront misinformation and Islamophobia, using the full force of its weight and clouds. Minister Jammeh joined his counterparts from OIC member countries at the Istanbul meeting, applauding the government of Turkey for hosting what he described as landmark event. The Gambian Information Minister used the opportunity to highlight the current progress of OIC projects in the Gambia as the country prepares to host the world's second-largest summit in Banjul. He further appealed to the OIC for support in building the institutional capacity of member states that are experiencing macroeconomic challenges by closing the gaps to reset the stage for better outcomes. Meanwhile, Minister Queen Jammeh has signed the statute for the OIC Media Forum, which effectively seeks to develop media and communications enterprise in the Muslim world. The statute seeks to promote cooperation among member states and advance the role of media in reviving and promoting Islamic civilization. Ibrahim Diallo, GRTS News.
And now we're staying with the OIC because the Gambia's Minister of Works, Ibrahim Silla, has been touring infrastructure projects being implemented by the OIC Secretariat around the metropolis, which includes roadworks and a new VVIP presidential lounge at the Banjul International Airport. Well, Baba Silla reports.
The successful completion of these roads will minimize traffic congestion in the inner city, which has always been a nightmare for city dwellers. The sites visited by the minister and the delegation include Lot 1 in the Carnifing area all the way to the Bundung Highway. According to the contractors, works are in high gear as they are optimistic that the job will be completed before the stipulated date time despite challenges faced.
We are working currently in 5 roads. So we open many front to be on target. So now, relative with the relocation of services that the NRA just mentioned it, if they do their own part, we are full mobilized and we are here. Currently, we are working in 5 different roads. Yeah. This project should be end of March, but as the NRA and the consultant highlighted, there is an issue of relocation of services. As you see here, you can see the gamtel pipes, poles, everything have to be moved before we pave the road. So in our part, we will do all our best to be on target.
We are here exactly at P15. This lot contains 11 roads. Now the contractor is working on 5 fronts to expedite the work and also to recuperate the delay made during the previous period. The contractor is working now on road P19. We are working on the relocation of services. to do the exercise quickly to allow the contractor to continue working without problems.
The contractors further stated that 11 feeder roads are to be constructed by the contractor on the Lot 1 project, which is extended from Carnivore industrial areas all the way to the Bundung Highway. The managing director of National Roads Authority, who was also part of the inspection team, explained how the completion of this road will minimize traffic congestion and boost mobility in the densely populated inner city.
This project is going to bring at the end of it all is it is going to create alternative passages for people, because if the Bundung Road is ready, why would you want to drive from Westfield to using the breakup? You will have an alternative route. This is what this project is all about. Apart from the OIC portfolio, it is here to create additional routes for people to different destinations. And that is important in transportation, because you cannot, if we all want to apply the same roads at the same time, this is what builds up to congestion. And, you know, congestion has environmental implications as well as for other economic implications.
The Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, Ibrahim Masilla, has this to say after the inspection of the site.
The end of the rainy season, we have seen the acceleration of work on the sites, and this is what we all want. We have seen the side drains being built fast, and that is the major problem, and the services have been transferred, and in many areas also the real road work, you know, has started. So we want to believe that before the end of November, some of the roads will be asphalt, and people will see the real progress that is happening in the 50 kilometers of the OIC roads.
Minister Silla also outlined plans put in place in order to address some of the challenges hindering the works of the contractors, while assuring compensation for affected individuals as a result of the project.
Properties that are to be demolished. As you can see, in fact, a lot of those properties that are on the right of way have already been served, and from the 25th of October, the demolition exercises will start in various places. People have already been served, and under the Constitution, we've met the required time frame given to property owners, serve them, engage them, and also sensitize them. We've done that already. There is a compensation package for the properties that are to be demolished. As you can see, in fact, a lot of those properties that are on the right of way have already been served, and from the 25th of October, the demolition exercises will start in various places.
As the Gambia prepares to host the OIC summit, preparations are in high gear to ensure that the projects are completed, which will also boost the country's economy and its poor road infrastructure. Bawasila, GRTS.
Moving on, traveling can sometimes be a challenge in rural Gambia, especially in districts where road conditions are not motorable. This limits the movement of people, goods and services, significantly reducing development impacts. For almost 55 years before the coming of the Barrow administration, communities around the Sanjal district battled with bad roads. However, a new 38-kilometer road network connecting them to major growth centers is quickly brightening the region's prospects. Our correspondent in the region traveled to Bambali to observe the impact of newly constructed roads.
There used to be a time when our elders would trek for kilometers to Njen Sanjal in order to access services such as health care. Then the road conditions were terrible. It lasted silently for decades. Today, the light of development is shining over Bambali. Today, that discourse has changed. You can now go to Farafeni and come back that same day. This 38-kilometer stretch, constructed by the Barrow administration, now connects the entire Sanjal under one economic agglomeration. To understand the impacts of government's interventions, especially on the lives of people in Bambali and the rest of Sanjal, I visited Alaji Sware, and as we discussed, I learned that Bambali is an old settlement. The village is also blessed with a 6-month freshwater supply from the River Gambia, and during the PPP era, the community served as an epicenter of rice production in the region.
It's very, very, very difficult than before to travel from Bambal to Serakunda because there is a vehicle. In fact, roads are the roads are not correct. The roads are very bad roads. Then we have it. So and the driver to come here is a very, very hard for them to come here. So for that being the case, we face it as a very, very difficult for us to travel. In fact, it contributes our survival very hard. It makes the survival very, very hard on us.
The local economy is highly dependent on farming and artisanal fishing. Decades down the lane, Bambali has now lost standards in rice production. The scars of rural-urban drifting and its impacts are visible on vital sectors such as agriculture and the fishing industry.
We want the government to put consideration to us on our area of the farming and also in the area of the fishing side, because though we have the crane here, electricity here, but that does not enough us in our fishing side. Having been when we could have cold fish here, that is going to help us lots.
If we are able to have a tractor or power trailer in our village for all our plowing services, that will accelerate our efforts in food production. If the community is supported with farm machinery such as tractors and power trailers, the human resource of Bambali can possibly feed populations both within and outside the North Bank. For the news, I am Famarakani.
And now, more children are dying from acute kidney injuries linked to contaminated Indian-made cough and cold syrups as health officials launch a second round of the medicine recall exercise on Friday, October 21st. The Ministry of Health partnered with the Medicines Control Agency, WHO, UNICEF, Child Fund, and the Gambia Red Cross Society in the second phase of the medicines recall exercise set to end on Tuesday, October 25th. The new phase aims to recall all paracetamol syrups, promethazine syrups, and cough syrups in circulation nationwide. Officials are particularly targeting the removal of all Maiden Pharma products from pharmacies, drugstores, and households around the country as epidemiologists work to contain a highly fatal Acute outbreak. Well, let's now bring in clinical epidemiologist and leading figure in the Acute intervention efforts, medical doctor Abubakar Jain. Good evening, doctor, and thank you for joining us in the news.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
And now, can you give us a quick update on the Acute situation? I mean, we're getting details of more child mortalities.
In fact, I think it's the reverse. For the past 10 days, we haven't gotten any cases coming.
Okay.
So meaning the 70 deaths we had was actually 2 weeks ago. So we had 68, and then the last two were about 2 weeks old. So from the situation as it is, there has been a huge, I would say, hold on the number of cases coming, and so also there hasn't been any mortality since then. Basically because maybe the drugs have been withdrawn from the community and people are getting aware and probably not giving it to the kids. Yeah, so that's the situation currently.
And now, how are children under observation responding to treatment, and how are you able to access vital Medicare to assist their recoveries?
Okay, so kidney injury is a disease, an acute disease. It's not a long-term disease. Usually, most people recover from it, and those a number of people, few people die from it if they are taken care of very well. But this particular situation was different, and that was what made us clinicians alert quickly to know that this is not usual kidney disease, what we know, chronic acute kidney injury. Often, as a nephrologist, when they say it's acute kidney injury, say, oh, give them option, you dialyze them once or twice, they recover. And of course, a percentage of them may have residual kidney problems and they will live with that, but they will not be on chronic dialysis. Most of them will not be on chronic dialysis. Most of them will recover if you're able to intervene early enough. But what was striking was this: in this situation, it was quite even with those interventions like dialysis we did for some of them, or medications that we do for medications that we, most of the time it's not like giving medicine, but like you want to alleviate the troubles of the kidney and give time for the kidney to recover by itself. But often they don't recover.
Okay, we also, following that, looks like there's also an Acute outbreak in Bangladesh. Is this linked to the same syrups causing death in the Gambia?
Possibly. You know, I'm sure you've heard of the one in Indonesia.
Right.
We were in touch with them. Their own started in January, but they didn't know what exactly was the cause. And when they heard of this in Gambia, so they were in touch with our colleagues, with our team here in the AFSTH, and our team helped to guide them. And apparently, the same thing that happened here probably was what was causing the kidney injury in those parts of the world since January. But ours started late June, July, beginning of July.
Well, for the sicknesses that these drugs were given to children for, when children actually have any of these type of sicknesses, is there any alternative drugs that we can actually give them?
So the drugs are not usually the life-saving medications. Like say antibiotics, that the child has an infection, so you must have to give him antibiotics. And these are mainly the ones that we know are not the routine drugs that children cannot stay away from. Although there are options, of course, we are not expecting that all the syrups are going to be this risky, but we think it may be narrowed to one brand. But you know, you can't be for certain. If you are going to stop, you may have to stop everything for the beginning until you prove that this is the case. There are other options and there are other means. Usually we give paracetamol to kids because their body is hot or they're feeling pain. So you give them paracetamol, or you give them cough mixture because they're coughing, and it's just for cough suppression. But the primary problem would be maybe you need antibiotics, and those are, as far as we are concerned, are not one of those that we are calling as the risk in this situation.
Well, the recall exercise has been quite successful with the second round targeting all made-in products in circulation. Now, are we on course to removing all suspected meds from the shelves and homes?
Yes, we are. Although, you know, there are limitations based on the fact that the country, we don't only buy drugs from within the country. Sometimes we borrow from our neighbors, and our neighbors borrow from us. So that's one. Two, the drugs, we can only pick those that are available either on the shelf or with the families of patients or escort volunteer to give. So you find out that it will be based on those that will tell. But from the look of it, it looks like, looking at the case numbers, if that is something to go by, then there has been a marked improvement for the past 2 weeks.
Well, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Johnny, clinical lead expert and in efforts to control the acute outbreak. Staying with health matters because nationwide vaccination campaign against measles and rubella disease is gathering pace across some countries. Partners in this drive, including the Ministry of Health, the National Nutrition Agency, NANA, and UNICEF, have been monitoring vaccination campaigns in the lower region. Our Usman is with the team. Now reports.
Some communities have welcomed the exercise with appreciation in an effort to reduce measles outbreaks in the country. On the other hand, vaccination teams are facing challenges from community members in administering vaccines, including vitamin C supplements and deworming tablets. Community canvassers influence many mothers and caregivers in regional, care central. The camera is among whose children to get medication. Kebari regional health director of LRR noted high response from communities.
So all the communities that we are moving into, we are having a very good response. And because we are moving with people who already know this community, and they can figure out if you are having kids that are missing or not.
Vaccinators are visibly going beyond closing time in order to have full coverage in the area. So she is a mother, and according to her, it is a moral duty to respond to health officials in the interest of our children. This supervisor of young Ibrahim Adiba expressed delight on the turnout.
Yesterday we started Kayaf and Janyer, and today we are in Madina Sancha. We were also in Sare Samba and Munkutala. But so far we've not had any refusal. In the district we are targeting around 3,000. These vaccines are very important. They help to prevent measles, rubella, and then also vitamin A and deworming are also alongside.
I spoke to public health officer Mariama Gomez. She explained how the exercise has been going since day one.
We vaccinated almost 1,000 children from the first day up to yesterday. For the vitamin, we are giving the blue cap for children from 6 months to 11. Vitamin and the red cap, 200,000 doses. We are giving it to children from 12 months to 59 months. We are seeing children with income. Also registered a case in Darama here.
Similar exercise, held in Dongoroyal, Jomokunda, and Jomokunda meant to help immune systems of under 5 children. Gilan Ture is a public health officer serving us.
Approximately we have vaccinated around 325 just for maybe just 3 communities right now. So today we are doing another 4 so get vaccinated. We are down into this one community, and we have this and we have bigger community.
The acute injuries are having a severe impact on the measles vaccination which has extended vitamin A supplement and deworming in many areas. Bolong S. Job is the regional health director in LR.
Doing it from 1978 and we will continue doing it. And these are sort of boosters and zero dose for some children. So it doesn't have any connection, nothing at all with the acute. So I'm telling mothers and caregivers to come forward and bring their children, because from January we were supposed to have this MR campaign 2020, but we couldn't due to corona outbreak. From January 2022, we started cases.
The campaign runs till Sunday, 23rd October, and officials are calling parents and caregivers to vaccinate their children against measles, thereby reducing child deaths. Usman Mane, GRTS.
And now moving on, the Gambia's judiciary is at a prime moment witnessing a vibrant indigenization with transformations giving justice delivery a Gambian face that comes with a marked increase in the number of judges and magistrates. However, a raging backlog of cases is undermining the sector's work and contributing to the sluggishness of justice delivery. Well, Isa Acute tells us more.
The judiciary witnessed numerous advances in numbers and capacity under a new dispensation, which has increased judicial support and indigenization, bringing in more Gambians to the affairs of justice delivery. 7 years, new and boarding lawyers have been called to the bar and sworn to serve as magistrates and high court judges, with more Gambians involved in the bench than ever before. This has minimized dependence on part-time judges and expatriate assistants, providing the Supreme Court with the number required to hear and determine cases coming before the Apex Court. a successful indigenization of the legal system, engaging more Gambian legal luminaries in the judiciary, credits one of the most important advances in the judicial reforms.
The process of Gambianizing the judiciary is going on. But when I say resources, time and energy and resources, we need qualified and competent Gambians to fill those positions of authority. We thank God recently 3 Gambian magistrates were promoted to become judges, but it's still not enough. And the reason is because the new generation now is very, very litigious.
Courts have been playing their role in ensuring the rule of law, adequately responding to matters amid efforts to effectively stifle impunity. But judicial reforms take a long time to initiate, and implementing them even longer.
Despite efforts to clear the backlog of cases still take too long to be completed. And our judicial officers at all levels still record proceedings by hand.
A historical backlog of cases remains a major challenge, with numerous unheard cases and adjournments delaying justice delivery.
Some sit in their office as courts. Some wait for each other. You wait when another magistrate rises, another one goes in. In Brikama, it's the same. In Brusubi, it's the same. In Bundung, it's the same. So we have the human resource, but the infrastructure is not there.
Adequate funding has been a constant difficulty in the provision of legal aid and pro bono services to victims of human rights violations, with legal aid facing the same problems that have always challenged the government to provide legal aid for citizens unable to afford it.
Whilst the numbers of court personnel in terms of judges and magistrates has increased, access to justice, particularly beyond the greater Banjul area, is still a challenge. This is a collective responsibility for all of us to strive to ensure that all citizens have the same quality of legal services and justice. When we speak about bringing just Gambians, we mean all regardless of where you live.
Case backlogs have increased in numbers, in a trend putting more pressure on the country's jails as trials remain stuck and unheard.
This system of mechanical recording and transcription of court proceedings by replacing the handwriting of the judicial officers, expedite the trial, as well as preparation of records. Across that takes a considerable period of time.
We decide, for example, the justice system, the judiciary, improving case management, in setting up what they call transcript system, and we start supporting the judiciary to establish ADR, at a secure resolution system, connected ADR. We supported the sub-workshop of the ADR rules, and now we are moving to another step of organizing trainings of judges, registrars, lawyers, on how to use ADR.
For many, the possibility of selective justice, stifling rights, could hugely undermine gains made since the country began its democracy under a new dispensation. Others see a lack of adequate capacity to deal with the influx of cases on a daily basis. But how exactly does the system work?
There are some cases that are difficult for the police. They cannot handle those cases. They refer them to the Ministry of Justice. And the criminal division of those cases, and then they will prepare their charge or information. They take it to the court. They register it, invite the accused, give you a date, that you are supposed to appear in court. Those that are available, the court will grant them bail. But those that are not available, they will be remanded. And then you start
largely contradicts the judiciary's swift justice mantra that has always guided the operations of best judicial practices.
The UN Special Envoy to West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambers, Friday graced the first annual retreat for special envoys, ECOWAS officials, and IGAD in Banjul. The three-day retreat focused on addressing unconstitutional changes of government and constitutional transitions on the African continent. Jamal reports.
This is a special meeting of ECOWAS and IGAD officials. The discussion centered around good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice and the rule of law. It is the first annual envoys gathering attracting members from across the African continent and beyond. Lam Yabo, the permanent secretary and head of diplomatic service at the Gambian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, chaired the session, saying it is important in view of political and security challenges facing the continent.
The objectives of our gathering is in line with the SDG 16, focusing on peace, justice, and strong institutions, as well as the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, aspiring for Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, rule of law, and a peaceful and secure continent. As we reflect on our continent, we see challenges in the Sahel, the Horn of Africa, the Great Lakes region, etc. It is, however, important to point out that these challenges, real as they are, but they did not define continent in totality.
Robert D. Ramos, Regional Director of Africa and West Asia at the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, IDEA, said the Gambia is a celebrated case of political transition in the African continent, and so it is an ideal place to converge and look to manage mediation of political transitions, especially in contexts with experienced military takeover.
How we manage mediation around constitutional transformation and what we learn from others. And we won't learn from our elders. We won't learn from special areas. I think the African continent, we need the expertise of our elders who are very complex wherever we see in Africa Union or global, it's a celebrated case of a successful political transition.
The Gambian Minister of Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, Babukar Usman delivered a statement on behalf of Dr. Badr Ali, welcoming the delegates to the Banjul meeting. He said this meeting is significant in pursuing the African Agenda 2063. He argued that topics of democratic governance, insecurity, and delay or failure of constitutional transition that require urgent and realistic action to address in good time.
The imperative of taking stock interconnected, independent, ideal, and African is as much ever with the series of constitutional changes of government that have created again war security and poverty and disrupting recent economic achievements. We had epidemic was behind how naive we need to be. We need to be an effective continent, rewinding to understand our society and the world, and return to the drawing.
The event was graced by prominent personalities, including Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, the UN envoy for West Africa and the Sahel, as well as Anes Bartoma, the former president of Sierra Leone, Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
And now give more consideration to teacher and student welfare was the solemn call to the Gambia government and partners from the Steve Sinop Foundation during an interface with educationists and stakeholders at the Gambia Teachers Union on Friday. The young Gambian ambassadors recognized the need for improved teacher-student welfare, which they illustrate as essential requirements for improved teaching and learning outcomes. Details in this report by Lurumendi. Well, we would have that report later in our news
Well, let's stay with education as schools presently make a great return introducing students to journalism and media engagement. Press clubs from the West Coast region convened in Lemons Journalism Academy on Wednesday to discuss pathways to effective journalism. The event brought together press clubs from several secondary schools across schools and the West Coast region to inculcate journalistic values in students planning future ventures in the media. Now moving on, the National Organizing Committee of the National Youth Conference and Festival NACOF Wednesday met with the Deputy Governor of the region and the Chairman of Tacoma Area Council to assess preparations by local organizing committees for the 2022 NACOF 22 Usman Bali reports.
The biennial event gives young people the opportunity to gather at a particular region to discuss issues affecting their welfare, growth and development. After 4 years of absence, NECOF has surfaced again, promoting the same ideas and programs geared towards the overall development of the youth. The Deputy Executive Director at the National Youth Council, Pamal Sisi, explained that each of the 7 participating regions will transport their delegates to the host region among other logistics.
NOC will always, as usual, come and complement what the region has. But it's the responsibility of the region to make sure that their delegates participate very well. And that participation covers everything in terms of their dress, whether it's sports or youth. However, the National Organizing Committee, under the chairmanship of the Honorable Minister of Transport, will do everything possible to ensure that each of the regions will be supplemented in terms of feeding and in terms of accommodation.
The Deputy Governor of the Lower region, Dabo, held the visit while soaring LRR's full participation in the event.
Sure, this delegation that the office of the governor, the lower region, we are behind all efforts to make sure that the lower region have success in all what entails within the NECOF.
The chairman of Mansapong Area Council, Landirisan, explained that LRR is fully prepared ahead of the NECOF and they are not going to spare any trophy this year's NECOF. He also spoke of Galga's partnership in upcoming youth events.
Galga as the mouthpiece of councils. They will understand the genesis of NECOF and they will be able to portray to all the councils what transpires in NECOF, what NECOF is about, so that we all get grasp of what is entailed in NECOF. I know a lot of them already they are veterans. They know about NECOF. But you know, we still need to be updated about what is going on as far as the NECOF is concerned. So Galga partner with National Youth Council to take rightful position in the execution of NECOF for this year. So that there will be good feedback to all the councils know how our investment into youth is being done.
The regional youth chairperson LRR stated that this year's NECOF will be the best looking at the state of preparedness coordination leadership level. Usman Bali, GRTS News.
And this is News 5 from Banjul, a reminder of our top stories this hour. OIC Information Minister meeting Turkey for major conference themed on combating disinformation and Islamophobia in the post-truth era. Now, Works Minister told OIC infrastructure project across the metropolis, and nearly 100 dead with more in critical Newsfile gets all the latest on the acute kidney injury outbreak linked to the contaminated India-made syrups causing child mortalities in the Gambia.
Sports Gambia's national handball team prepared for the upcoming Zone 2 Women's Youth and Junior African Trophy set to take place in Guinea-Conakry. Away from home, Zimbabwe is poised to reap its largest wheat harvest ever amid global food shortages exacerbated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Plus, Uganda secures $300 million for the import-export-backed construction of the East Africa oil pipeline. That's all coming up. That's sports after this break.
Remember, early detection saves lives. So we want to advise everyone, including myself, to go and meet their strangers at any accessible health center. National handball teams are preparing for the upcoming Zone 2 Men's Youth and Junior IHF Trophy Africa scheduled to take place in Conakry, Guinea from the 25th to the 25th October 29. Now the event crucially serves as a qualification event for the continental phase of the IHF Trophy Africa. O'Shea Youth attended one of 10 training sessions and he prepared this report.
Dick. National Men's Youth and Junior Hijia are set for the upcoming Zone 2022 Championship Tour in Conakry. Both teams are set to compete and have been advancing preparation, especially training session, to make a difference this year's Zone 2.
Expectation is to high. As far as this two team is concerned, they are very determined. And they promise me that this year is different from other previous years. Because they want something for the country. They are there for their country, and they make sure that they fly the flag for Gambia
As schools highlighted, players are mentally, tactically, and physically ready to work hard towards qualifying in the Under 21 IHF International World Championship 2023 Germany, Greece.
Thank God the boys are on the foot here. They were very prepared, well prepared. Because well before the tournament was even postponed, the kids were training, and after when the event was postponed, they were still training. So as you can see, the draw is in very shape. They are very well motivated and very well trained.
The Zone 2 Men's Youth and Junior IHF Africa Trophy Tournament take place in Conakry from October 25th to 29th, with sub-regional teams set for a major face-off. The handball tour typically serves as a qualification event for the continental phase of the IHF Africa Trophy. The Gambia's youth team will be facing host Guinea-Conakry in the first game, while junior team will play against Mali at the Jimas Handball Stadium in the Guinea capital. Sergio, report for Jaja Sports.
And now we would focus on our international scene because the global shortages caused by the war in Ukraine have some countries to focus on producing of their own food. As a result, Zimbabwe is on course to recap largest wheat harvest.
Uganda has secured funding for the East African crude oil pipeline. The nation says that it received nearly from the Africa Export Bank and the Islamic Development.
Well, some imports are facing restrictions in Ethiopia as the government moves to curb the foreign currency shortage in the country. Commercial banks have been instructed that letters of credit should not be opened for non-essential commodities.
Protests in Iran are continuing in response to the death in police custody of a 22-year-old last month. Friday, police arrested at least 57 people in the southeast after demonstrators attacked banks and chanted against the government, while Iranians outside the country are calling on Western nations to help those protesting.
Well, this is News File and we are in Banjul. Now, a quick look at our top stories once again. Information ministers from OIC nations are meeting for a major conference themed on combating disinformation as Islamophobia Islamophobia truth era.
Works Minister Ibrahim Silla has been touring OIC infrastructure projects across the metro costs.
And nearly 70 deaths, with more in critical condition. News file got all the latest on the acute kidney injury outbreak linked to contaminated India made syrups, causing child mortalities in the Gambia.
In sports, Gambia's national handball teams are preparing for the upcoming Zone 2 men's, youth, and junior IHF trophy scheduled to take place in.
Away from home, Zimbabwe is on course with the largest wheat harvest ever amid a growing global food shortages exacerbated by Russia's invasion of war.
Plus, Uganda has secured $300 million funding from the Africa Import-Export Bank to complete construction of the East Africa Crude Oil Pipeline.
Well, that's it for the news file this hour, and thank you for the pleasure of your company. To join us again at 10 p.m. with Ibrahim Chai for more news and updates. Until then, bye for now.